Good afternoon. This is, I presume, the last session of the two-day conference. And this should be the last but not the least. And I can assure you one thing. I was wondering why this session did not catch the attention of the organizer in the beginning, because I am going to talk on something which has been announced in the budget, which has not happened. But I can assure all of you who are here, in the years to come, the various event managers will compete with each other to talk about this in the years to come. This is going to be the game changer, which we are talking about in the Government of India. I will dwell on it briefly on what NITI Ayog is all about. Then we'll talk about the scheme, the brief outline of it, and we'll leave with a thought to all of you to see what the shape of things that are coming. The NITI Ayog was constituted in the 1st January 2015 by the new government. It is a successor to the Planning Commission. It's a think tank of the government. It is mandated to work as a game changer for transformation of the economy and the society. The key word is here transformation. Now, when I talk about this new scheme which has been announced in the Union budget, I want to ask the delegates who are here, how many of you here are self-employed? Would you raise your hands? Okay, I can see. In the next couple of years, we will have this conference. Well, the 90% will be self-employed through this scheme. This is the potential of the scheme. I'll go into the details of this scheme briefly, but before that, let me say that what is self-employment is all about. All of us draw salary from somewhere. This is called wage employment, salary employment. But those who have their own enterprise are self-employed. The classical case is the panwala, the chartwala, the farmer, who are all self-employed. But this is something different which the Prime Minister himself has taken the initiative and assigned it to NITI Ayog. And the details of the schemes are being worked out, let me say. The draft policy has been announced. This scheme also has been announced. But the details are being worked out and is to be implemented by NITI Ayog in the current financial year. Now, I will briefly talk on the background to this and what is the defining feature of this, what is the existing scenario, and what are the shape of things to come. There are 4. I'll quickly go through this as we have little time on this. Look at what the Finance Minister has said in the budget. SETU will be a techno-financial incubation and facilitation program to support all aspects of startup business. I think all of us were talking about startup, of gaming, of having parks, and so many other things. But this has never happened. Is IT the main thing about it? No, it's not. IT is one aspect of it. Now, as we go along, we'll see what are the contours of the scheme which we are planning. I think the basic purpose of my coming to this place was to take you on board. This is the central sector scheme, the new scheme in the 12th plan. The implementing agency is NITI Ayog, like UID is implemented by erstwhile Planning Commission, now in NITI Ayog. SETU will be implemented by, like UID, by NITI Ayog. 1,000 crore has been allocated to NITI Ayog initially. Now, it can be 5,000 crore, it can be 10,000 crore. Depends on how the scheme progresses and how the industry laps it up. That's the major thing. The striking feature of this scheme is it is tech startup. You have a farmer who is self-employed. You have a panwala who is also self-employed. But the difference in all these self-employment schemes that this is purely technology based. This is not necessarily IT. IT is a major component, but IT is not the only technology. There are others also. I'll talk about that. Now, what are the targets here? 1,000 startups, and to deliver a turnover of 4,000 crore. These are the targets in the next 5 years. Okay, generate employment of 1 lakh. Now, what is the global scenario? I say all this is data from NASSCOM. I will not go into that. But the top 3 countries are US, UK, and Israel. India is 4th in the whole. But this is again the NASSCOM, so this is basically focused on IT, which may not be giving a clear picture about it. But initially we are the 4th in the world. We have more than 3,000 digital startups, and they are all increasing. By and large, Bangalore and NCR are the focus of this. 59% are dominated by the e-commerce. Young entrepreneurs are the major supporters of this. Women entrepreneurs have also started to leverage this. What is the outlook is this? 11,500 startups. This is again in NASSCOM. I'm just quoting NASSCOM. These are again the growth indicators of this startup business in the country today. As in again, I will not go into those details. Now, what is the policy content? Because we today had the draft IT policy. I wanted to say this to Government of Goa. May consider to have a new policy on startup other than the IT policy. They may consider it. We have written a letter also to the Chief Secretary inquiring about this. Now, only 2 states have, Andhra and Government of Kerala. I'm told UP is also working on it, Maharashtra is also working on it. Many other state governments are working on this. Now, what is the need to have a separate policies for startup other than the IT policy? The striking feature of this is, if you have to have technology startups purely geared to technology driven business, then you have to have a separate policy. It is not merely IT. Other verticals are also incurred in that, are included in that. Now, there are many schemes with the government. If government doesn't have a startup policy, that also we are trying to think of that, whether we should have a separate policy, and we are also planning to see that. There are various programs of Department of Science and Technology. I will not go into the details of this. These are all incubator schemes of DST. Then you have the technology, and the current status of incubation is like this. Cumulative space created to government expenditure is 585,700 square feet. Again, I will not go into details. Department of Biotechnology is also another initiator of startups in the field of biotechnology. MSME is a major player in this whole Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises. They also have these 3 schemes for incubation for startups. Ministry of Textiles also, I have not noted here, but Ministry of Textiles also has a scheme for technical textiles startups. Now, the question is, do you need a separate policy? Do you need a separate ecosystem for startups? Planning Commission, erstwhile Planning Commission under the Revenue Secretary, Mr. Mitra, had constituted a committee. They say, why in India the startups are not growing? They had identified five major constraints. One is the government policy framework is weak. In other words, they were saying you should have a startup policy. Second, Easy access to equity and capital and debt is not there. Business as entrepreneurial hubs is not there. Promotion of entrepreneurs over careerism is not there. And adequate and effective collaboration forums was not there. So these were the 5 constraints which they had identified. And given that, now what we propose to do is what we are trying to formulate right now. And within a couple of months, the scheme will be launched. It will be start implementation in the current financial year. We want to have world-class incubation centers. I have not gone into a policy context. We may formulate a policy also for startups. But that's, again, in the, is under consideration. So these are going to be the major components of this. So one is incubation, as announced by the finance minister. This other one is the risk capital, we call it growth capital or fund of funds. The other one is in scale of the existing technology incubators. Fourth one is the major constraint in the whole startup business is mentoring. Good mentors, committed mentors. IIM Ahmedabad has an incubation center, but there is a dedicated faculty for this. So the dedication of the faculty in the institutions or in the R&D labs is a major determining factor for the success of this. Then training and awareness, and then a database. Today you do not have a database of startups. You ask NASCOM, they have something, FICCI has something, but we propose to create a database of startups. The question that you may ask now, what is the legal definition of a startup? Now, we, as a matter of fact, under the Company Act, it is not defined. Only the startup policy of Government of Kerala defines a startup. This is state specific. Now, what are the technology areas we are going to cover? So this is the difference between e-governance and here. And there's no wonder that this was not covered in many of the verticals of your two-day conference. It is IT, is one component. Green technology, clean technology is going to be another vertical of this. Biotech will be another. And technologies for manufacturing, technologies for Make in India. There are 25 sectors, 25 manufacturing technologies, auto components, aerospace, everything under that will be also a part of this startup business. So this is, to sum up, the proposed components, proposed details of the scheme. I'm sure this will be a major thing because, as you know, the governments come and go. They rise and fall on 2 aspects, inflation and jobs. If you're able to create jobs, if you're able to create schemes for them, you are succeeding. Otherwise, the governments will not last long. This was the major lesson of the last UPA government. I'm sure the government has started in the first year and has assigned this to us to implement. I'm sure all of you will agree that this is going to be a game changer in the years to come. Thank you very much.